Yes, go ahead.
My name is Karen Polakowski. I live on Heritage Hill. I have some handouts I want to give you.
Sure.
My proposal that I'm trying to do is change a little section, 1 mile on 313, from a 50 mile an hour
Thank you.
to a 40 mile an hour. It's a residential section. Would you like a copy? Would you like a copy? Okay. Requesting that the speed limit change from 50 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour. And it's the section that's from Bennington Crossing to the Reed House, which is 1925. That's a residential section. And the reference point is, it's just over that. It's been reduced to 40 miles an hour.
Yep.
And I think that was changed not too long ago, because they used to be 50 miles an hour,
It's been that way for a little while.
but not too long. Okay.
Yeah.
So my bullet points
And
are,
that goes down beyond, I think it changes right at the just past
Foxtrot.
Covered Bridge. Yeah,
just before Benedict Crossing Road.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Foxtrot.
Yeah.
So that's a residential section, that one strip, that 1 mile that I'm talking about. And what happens is the driveways that are on the Battenkill Riverside are going uphill. The driveways that are going on the opposite side are going downhill. And because of the topography and the curves and the hills on that road, it's very difficult to see onto 313. And the other, so if you look on the map on page 2, you'll see that I've indicated the way that the driveways go down and up. And also Benedict Hollow Road, because the bridge is closed, we're going to be starting getting some traffic on there when it gets fixed. And if you ever try to get out of that road or go towards New York, it's a nightmare because there's a little hill right there that makes it really, really difficult to see. The other thing is there are new houses across the street, across from Heritage Hill and Pickering Road. There are two houses down there that have little children, and Jamie knows that's a bus stop on Heritage Hill and Pickering Road. Right now the parents park in Heritage Hill to pick up their kids so they don't have to cross the road to get down to their house. And I think the main thing is that the people that live on the riverside, their mailboxes are on the opposite side of the road. The Oaklands have to cross that road in order to get their mail. They're in their 80s right now. And I watch them when I'm out gardening, and I just hold my breath hoping that they don't get hit, because there's a curve there also. And that's where we had that head-on collision in May. And that was like a driveway away from where they were. So all it is, it's a mile. It's a mile from where the 50 mile an hour starts again, which is just before Benedict Hollow Road, and just through that residential section, so that keep the residents safe. They were coming down those driveways. Marianne Carson has a very steep driveway there. I don't know how they get out. I've been up and down the Oaklands driveway.
Really?
I don't know how they get out. So we have to, I don't know what the procedure is, but I know you have to talk about it and then propose it or send a letter to the V-Trans operation engineer to see whether or not we can just...
That is correct, because it's their jurisdiction.
Right, but
They would have to do a
if a
traffic
letter
study.
comes from the board,
Yeah,
We certainly
They
have
have to
to
do
do
the traffic
that.
study.
yeah, typically we need a traffic study, but I think we can get in the queue to do the traffic study. I can ping the regional commission about what the timeline is for that, and then get back to you about when.
yeah, because I don't know why they stopped, because I know that whole section was 50 miles an hour, and then they stopped just before. But that's like the worst section, because of the driveways
Yeah.
and the roads going down are going right into 313, and its visibility is awful. So if you have any questions or,
Yes.
In the last bullet point, it says there have been many accidents. Do you actually have any data about the number of accidents on that road?
I know, I was there on the one that was, that.
I know that, I understand that reference, but usually, and, I mean, I looked at this data myself at one point, but usually you can figure out, you can try to collect accident data, and I would assume the state would have it, but I don't really know. But I think it would be really good to have some of that data. I don't know if,
V-Trans.
I think
Yeah,
we
we have-
probably would ask
Yeah,
them
you
to
can
do that.
access it all online.
Yeah,
But I think the main issue is the way that these roads are. The ones that are on the riverside are going uphill. So these people are trying to get onto 313. When you're going 50 miles an hour, especially Benedict Crossing, they're accelerating right at that point.
Yep.
And if you try to make a left-hand turn, good luck.
Well, there is a V-Trans employee that lives right there. I mean,
I know, because I talked to him about the dead trees.
yes. Yes,
And
I'm
the dead
surprised
trees that
that,
are going to hit that road.
yeah, and I'm surprised that the V-Trans hasn't been through because they had hoped to do it this year, as
Yeah.
well as do some ledge work along that stretch as well or nearby. So it's certainly, I think this is a great idea for a speed study with the kind of subtle winding that happens on that stretch of road.
It does too.
It really, yeah, the up and down is also a big deal, and I really like that, this idea, this is a good place to have a speed study done.
so, but what does this mean? Like, it's 35 from here to
Just beyond the curve.
just beyond
Yeah,
the
just
curve,
beyond
and then it
Donfield.
goes up to 50
Yep.
until just after Benedict Crossing, and then it's 40 to get kind of Sandgate Road or Covered
Yeah.
Bridge.
Which is a
around
mile.
there.
Yeah.
That 40
I
miles.
thought it was actually the Covered Bridge because it was supposed to cover the
no.
the
Just
huddle.
that
Just this
Sandgate
side of
Road.
it. Just
And
this
it's only
side.
a mile.
I would say it should, I mean, you got the huddle there, that you
Yeah.
should be protecting that. I don't have a problem with this. I think one of my issues, first of all, I don't think the state's gonna do it. They seem to be really reluctant to lower speeds. But the other thing is the enforcement, because we don't have enough law enforcement presence, we don't have enough enforcement of these speed limits, and if we lower it, it's gonna be even harder to get people to obey. That isn't a reason not to do it. I'm just saying that just lowering the speed limit in and of itself doesn't solve anything. If we actually enforce the speed limits that are there, that would be good too. So I just really think that changing it without having enforcement is not gonna get you
I
anywhere.
mean, my house is parallel to the 313. I watch these people speed up and down all day long. But my concern is the residents, especially the Oaklands, Mary Carlson,
Yeah.
and the kids that have to cross that road to go to the bus.
No, I agree with you. I think it's worth.
So not
trying
changing
to
it
do it.
doesn't do it, I mean.
No,
it's
but
not
I just want to say that I think that changing it and then trying to get, and of course we don't do the speed enforcement on 313 anyway, but we need to push the state to do more speed enforcement, because I think some of these people are not even going 50, they're going 55
Or
and
more.
possibly 60.
Or more.
So
Oh, yeah.
so one thing that I think we should try to do, even as we explore this, is to ask for more enforcement of the existing speed limits, so that we're proceeding on
That
two
could be
tracks.
part of the.
Yeah, certainly, the first step here is a speed study, let's assess the problem, know how bad it is, and that step is, I'm gonna call up Jim Henderson or email Jim Henderson and say, let's get in the queue for when one of the other towns isn't using DCRC's speed radar.
Okay, so that may be the first step, but the second step should be to ask the state to have more enforcement of their own speed limits, because I don't think they're doing that.
I certainly think that there are a few things the state's gonna need to think about, and whether the manpower problem with state speed enforcement is going to go away, and whether they need to consider all of their options in that world is something that we know that they're thinking about. We know that they get complaints just like this from every state highway in the state, and that the state's inability to control its own speeds on its own roads is a problem that is everywhere in Vermont. But we know that the state is thinking seriously about how to fix it.
The little signs that you have, slow down signs that catch people's speed limits, is that helpful?
temporarily.
It can be
And-
temporary.
And they're $5,000 each.
Why shouldn't we get the speed sign, even as we're doing the traffic study? Why can't we ask to get the speed sign on this section of
We could
313?
we could ask the
certainly
state
could.
to rotate
You know,
their-
the one where it shows you your speed?
Well, because I think they had it on there when they were doing
Yeah,
probably
the
the study. to
VSP
lower
has
that
one that
speed.
they
BSP
They
has
had
exactly
one
one for the
for us.
county.
They had like a portable one.
Yeah, they have a portable one for the county, but it's one unit that everyone in the county makes requests like this. So certainly, we're going to have to think about our budget for equipment like this, safety equipment, in future highway budgets as well. About whether we can afford more units, whether we should be thinking about if there is another pot of money that could pay for more
I
units than we
personally,
have.
the signs are good, but unless you have enforcement, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because people know they're not getting a ticket off of those signs.
Yeah.
So
Eventually-
if we're gonna put money into something, it should be enforcement, whether it's the sheriff's department or whatever. So when we get into budget time, I think that's when that should happen.
Mark, you had a question?
Well, just a little statement. Most of us know as drivers that, you know, you can run 5, 8 miles an hour over the speed limit, even if you see a cop, you're not gonna get a ticket. So at least, like this lady is suggesting, even if it went down to 40, the speed limit went down to 40, even without presence of law enforcement there, most people are gonna see, oh, it's 40, all right, I gotta kick it back down to 50. Because you know, 10 miles an hour over, you can probably, because it's like East Arlington Road, all under there,
Sure.
25. Everybody does 30 to 35 on it. So at least lowering, if the state would lower the speed limit, at least you lower, the people wouldn't drive
Yeah.
58 down through there.
Yeah.
Might drive 48. So, but still, that's a 10 mile an hour drop.
Sure.
It's still over the speed limit, but at least it's a 10 mile an hour
Yeah,
drop.
speed limits matter, but they only matter so much, but they certainly matter, and it's important to know that they matter.
And enforcement, all of these points are good.
And-
And anecdotally, when the speed limit used to be 35 on East Arlington
Then
Road,
everybody did 40.
the whole reason we
Yeah.
put it down was not to enforce 25. It was to reduce the prevailing speed
Exactly.
to 35.
Mhm.
And it worked, for the most part it worked. The few strategically placed tickets,
But
we
even,
did all
even
this
now,
different, made all the difference.
even without police presence,
Yeah,
you
sure.
still, everybody usually does about 30,
Yeah.
30 between
Yeah,
30
5
and
to
35.
10 over.
So,
Yeah, even in situations with cameras everywhere, the cameras are still typically taking at 11 over. That's the standard in
sure.
speed camera world, and I've done a lot of thought on speed cameras. That they are not legal in Vermont right now. That's not something we can talk about seriously at this point. But if Vermont ever does think about automated enforcement, that'll be a top of mind conversation. But no, this is a good idea to start thinking about. This is an area that certainly has nagged at me, having driven that countless times in the last couple of years. And
when the
this is an
speed
area
on,
that
speed
seems
on
worse
East
than everywhere
Arlington
else.
Road was 35, people were going 45 and 50 on right past the school.
Yeah.
So it definitely made a difference. But that's, I
Sheriff
agree
better
with
be
your
done.
enforcement. They go hand in hand.
And this might have already been resolved, but wasn't there a lot of concern about that 35-mile-an-hour stretch around that corner?
That just had a study done.
That study was done?
Yeah, we just got it back last week.
Would having that 40-mile-an-hour set, that piece before that would maybe really help slow people down coming into that
Yeah,
35, instead of people trying to decelerate from their
I
55
mean, you're at
or
40,
whatever.
then you're up to 50, and then, oh my God, you gotta come down to
Yeah, if
35.
it's-
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that would kind
Yeah.
of help gradually slow
Yeah.
that. And I know, I would love, this is a personal thing, I would love to take my cross-country kids and run from the rec park to River Road and let them run on River Road, but I can't because of that curve there. I don't even like
Yeah.
doing that as an adult, but I'm not gonna take my kids there.
Right.
And so, to
Any kind
help
of bikers,
slow
every time
that
there's a biker
down.
on that road, I go,
I have a heart attack.
crazy.
But that might help assist with that gradual slow down, people
Yeah, it's
not
definitely-
going 50 to 35.
It's definitely something that, considering the full corridor wouldn't be a bad thing. Maybe this is a place for seeing if V-Trans will think about doing an even broader speed study that is beyond our capabilities, that assesses the full corridor and says 313 from Arlington Village to the New York border, what should the speeds be along that? Because I believe that a study, like when I was probably in diapers, but I don't think it's been studied as a corridor since then. I saw some form of paperwork that they looked at this back a long time ago, but I don't believe it's been studied cohesively. Maybe it was when they were looking at putting a byway in there, because I think they were looking at including this as part of a broader scenic drives category, but that would have been required this. So.
But I guess I just would be concerned about asking them to do some kind of big
No.
holistic evaluation of 313. That's not a bad thing to do, but right now, we would want to address this particular issue.
It's 1
you know.
mile.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
we can assess.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And it's 1 mile where it goes up and then it comes back down. It doesn't make any sense.
At least
It doesn't.
we can get a spot check at this particular spot with this radar over 1 week. We will know how bad the speeding problem is, and these
But
speed
it's not
studies.
That's
only
all
the
you need.
speed, Nick.
Yeah.
It's also the driveways. They're
Right.
not-
The engineering is a really interesting component of this,
Yeah.
because the state definitely needs to take seriously any new permits for driveways through there, but also ultimately one of the other ways to control speeding is with engineering and making it difficult to drive, and whether there's some form of engineering work that could be done to make this safer too. But that's a much bigger, much more extensive, scarier thing, but certainly something that they should take seriously.
Okay, so you're gonna reach out?
I'm going to reach out, I'm going to take it from here, I will keep you in the loop.
Thank you.
I'm assuming you still have the email that you've had
Yes,
forever.
I do.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
for bringing that to our attention.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Any other public comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Next, yeah, thank you.
Hi, Karen.
See you later. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Cynthia to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Under new business, we have Dara Zink with us from the BCRC to go over hazard mitigation plan discussion, and I guess this is like the preliminary
This is the kickoff meeting.
Kickoff meeting.
All right, good. So the floor is yours.
All right, where's, I guess. oh,
Anywhere's fine.
okay. All right, so, we have just been contracted to work with the town of Arlington to develop an update to the hazard mitigation plan. We anticipate that to be finishing up in 2025. Next. Thanks. So hazard mitigation is defined by FEMA as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to life and property from hazards. This community-driven process will help the town plan for risk caused by hazards in order to build community resilience. Having this plan in place also increases the amount of funding the town will receive from the state after a disaster. Next. BCRC will be assisting Arlington in updating their 2019 hazard mitigation plan. This plan can be found on BCRC's website if you are curious and would like to review it yourself. bcrcvt.org. You click on the little town of Arlington and this page pops up and you can find the hazard mitigation plan in the bottom right-hand corner. Next. All right, so this is our planning roadmap. This is how it's all going to go. It will occur in 4 phases. So starting with phase 1, this is where the planning process is organized and we gather our resources. This includes 3 tasks. So the first task is already completed. We've determined the planning area, which is the town of Arlington, and our resources. Grant resources were found to fund this work. Our next step is to create the planning team, and then we'll work together to create an outreach strategy to members of the public, and which we will use to gather information from residents and other stakeholders within and surrounding the Arlington community. Next. So phase 2, go ahead, Nick. There we go. All right, the little car's just moved.
There we go.
How fast is it moving? But how fast is it going?
58 miles an hour.
45.
see the drawing.
All right, so our phase 2 is we're going to assess the risk to the town. So we're going to conduct a risk assessment. So go ahead, next, Nick. We will evaluate the hazards addressed in the 2019 plan, which are all shown on the slide. And based on feedback from the public, the planning committee, and stakeholders, we will choose which ones this plan will focus on. The town may want to focus on all of them or just a few that pose the greatest risks. I just want to note that floods and flash floods are now being referred to as flooding and fluvial, or were referred to as flooding and fluvial erosion. In the previous plan, that should be 2019. I have big fingers. And then temperature extremes, when we do outreach, we will actually be splitting them into 2 categories of extreme cold and excessive heat. So when we do outreach to the public, we'll ask questions about how do you feel about, are you worried about extreme cold? Are you worried about excessive heat and things like that? So instead of just clumping them together, we are probably going to separate them. And then what FEMA used to have us do, so FEMA ultimately approves these plans. What FEMA used to have us do is actually address every single one of these. That's kind of a waste of time, right? So earthquakes, yeah, we've had a couple small ones, but it's not something that we can really mitigate for here. So it's probably not something that we may choose to address in this plan. So we can go through, and as a planning team, we can pick like the top ones that we want to address, which is kind of nice. It makes the plans a little bit smaller than they used to be. We will go ahead and next, Nick. We will then look at where these risks cause damage to the town's critical facilities and other important resources. Risk is defined by FEMA as the relationship between hazards and community assets, which can include people, structures, systems, valued activities, and natural, historic, and cultural resources. The larger the overlap, the larger the risk. The plan will address those areas in the community with the greatest risks. Go ahead, Nick. In phase 3, our little car is at the top in the second hump, or curve, we'll call it a curve. The planning team will review the community's capabilities and then develop a mitigation strategy. Go ahead, next, Nick. The community's capabilities are the tools that the town has available that may increase resiliency. The planning team will take into consideration the town's existing strengths and areas of opportunity and the 4 types of capabilities as defined by FEMA. So the planning, regulatory, administrative, technical, financial, education, and outreach. Next. Mitigation strategies. So with all of this information, the team can then create a mitigation strategy. These strategies are made up of 3 parts: the mitigation goals, the actions themselves, and the action plan. Go ahead, Nick. Arlington has goals that were written into the 2019 plan. These will be reviewed and updated as needed. I'm not going to read these off to you. That's going to take us all night. Thank you. But those are actually in the plan if you want to access it online, so if you would like to review those. The 2019 plan also has mitigation actions, and those will be reviewed and updated as necessary. The team may choose to remove some, update others, and add new ones as the town priorities may have shifted. Mitigation actions must cover each of these 4 types, as listed here. So we just have to make sure that we have actions that address these 4 categories here. Right now, I think Arlington has probably 50+ actions. We will whittle those down, and we will choose actions that are going to be most effective for the town. Go ahead, Nick. The action plan is a prioritization of the selected actions. This will include a very basic CBA, or cost-benefit analysis, and then we ready the plan for implementation. Next. Phase 4 is where we review and adopt the plan in a public meeting. We send it to FEMA for final review, set in place actions that will keep the plan current, and move forward to create a resilient community. Next. At this point, we are at task 2 of the first phase, building the planning team. The planning team will be responsible for developing and reviewing drafts of the plan, including the risk assessment, reviewing the mitigation goals and strategy, and then submitting the plan for adoption. Next. So this is a suggested planning team here. Previously, Arlington solely used select board members to work on this. FEMA is strongly suggesting that we move away from that for your sanity, as well as gathering more information from people in other roles. So they suggest that, in this case, the town administrator and the EMD is one and the same. So, Nick, I'm sorry. You're stuck with me, buddy.
It's only 2 of them.
We usually have, 1 or 2 members of the select board. We ask members of the planning committee to join if they would like. Obviously, we want DPW there because you guys are seeing the aftermath of what is happening during flooding and snowstorms and things like that. And then we'll engage throughout the process with our local floodplain managers and our emergency response organizations, nonprofit organizations, and other groups that support vulnerable populations. And we'll even reach out to the utility companies as well. So really, this is to kind of get that process started. We're going to develop a super team
With superpowers.
with superpowers of hazard mitigation. So this is just to kind of share with the public, this is what we're doing, this is going to be our process. And we're looking for volunteers to come join our committee. If you don't want to be through the whole process, that's okay. As we announce meetings and things like that, and if you feel like that particular meeting about, we're going to be touching on, floodplains and things like that. If you're interested in floodplains, you can come to the meeting and discuss that with us. Does anyone?
And we're going to
Any
announce this
questions?
at the planning commission meeting on Thursday, trying to recruit someone from the planning world.
Perfect.
Cynthia, you have a question? or
Yeah,
comment?
I'm just,
Sorry, I'm right behind you.
no, that's okay. So I do remember, the last time we did this, and it sounds like some of the things that FEMA requires or the regulations around it have changed, which is, which does happen. But there's a substantial body of work in the last plan. So to what extent are we sort of updating what's already there and then adding the new things and the new perspectives and the new requirements and maybe shifting priorities? I mean, we're not rebuilding this.
No,
We're revising existing
Right.
plans.
So I've already started the work to kind of update the data that's in that plan. So
Okay.
a lot of the data was based off of the census data was 2010 census data. And so I'm working on updating to 2020. And then we'll add, so FEMA requires us to look at historical actions. So I have to update all of the fun weather stuff that has happened between 2019 and now. So I have to go in and update all of that information. And then FEMA really wants more outreach to the community this time via a survey or a public meeting. So Sandgates is just finishing up. And what we did for Sandgate is we actually had, we did a big chart and it was all of the hazards listed down the side, and then people could come in and they could color code yes, this is a very, this hazard really worries me, and I'm not so worried about earthquakes, but flooding, oh yeah, I'm super worried about. And then we also had a map of the town, a big map of the town, and so people could go in and be I don't know if anybody here in town would know this, but hey, that culvert is really bad. It's at the base of my driveway and it floods every time, and they can mark that themselves. Or they could, there's a landslide over here that keeps coming down, and they can mark that. Or we had people really concerned with poison parsnip, so they came in and they marked poison parsnip down as one of the things that they were worried. Yeah, things that they were worried about.
I mean, the other thing that I was wondering about is there any way to reflect the actions the town has taken
Yes.
that were directed by the 2019
Yes.
thing? Because I
Yep.
know that we've spent a lot of time
Yep.
increasing the size of culverts, trying to right-size the culverts, and so that should count somewhere, that we
Yep.
have done that. I mean, even though the flooding events may be becoming more challenging, at least we've been trying to
Yes.
catch up.
So one of the things that we do, and I haven't gotten through all of the actions yet, but one of the things we do is we look at all the actions from the previous plan and we actually talk about them. What's been completed, what is still in process, what will forever be in process. Upgrading culverts will probably be a forever thing, and we note that in there. We say this is ongoing, this is completed, the town did this piece. Another thing while I'm still thinking about it, the new plans really want us to discuss within them potential future impacts of climate change. So we
Well,
have to
yeah.
do some forward thinking as well, just as an
No,
aside.
and that's good, but the other thing that struck me was one of the most recent floods, I think up in Lindenville maybe, up in the
Yep.
Northeast Kingdom, is that some of the worst damage was on private roads.
Right.
Where like you talk about someone saying, oh, this culvert at the base of my driveway is undersized, that may be a private culvert.
Right.
That is not a town culvert.
Right.
And so there are these culverts on private roads that are undersized, the town is not responsible.
Right.
But when they blow out, then the water comes down the private road and then
Right.
damages the town road. So I think there's a curious interface there.
Right.
And I was really struck by it, and I don't know if that's something, I mean, I've certainly seen a lot of water coming off of driveways that are not properly designed. You know, a lot of water and debris and stuff like that. So I, you know, and I don't know what,
Yours is the opposite.
Yeah, it's all coming in, but that's our fault, so.
but I don't know where, I mean, I'm just struck by the fact that there may be private activities occurring
Right.
that are not under the control of the town that affect the state of readiness and the resilience, so.
Mark,
Mark,
do you wanna speak to that?
Cynthia, just to add to what you just said, when I was talking with Jim Henderson a couple weeks ago, he said that the state is now going to start going after private roads to make them get up to code with culvert sizing, ditch erosion.
Because of this very problem, because of, okay.
Just to let you know.
No, I appreciate that.
is-
I appreciate
You know,
that.
It's awesome news.
it's a,
Yeah, that's great.
well, it is and it isn't, you know, who's gonna police it for one, who's gonna be the bad guy that goes to, you know, such and such, not me, no, I'm a bad enough guy. You know, who's gonna police it, who's gonna go to these, you know, different private roads that have 2 or 3 houses on it, that nobody really maintains the road, and say, well, you've gotta upgrade the road, and they're gonna say, well, make me. I mean, if they don't have the money to do it, to fix the road, period, how are you going to police them to fix it any other way? That
Yeah,
was
no,
my,
and
that was my
I get
statement
that.
to Jim.
No, and I get
Yeah.
that, and I mean, people are struggling so much, even as we are,
Yeah.
but I guess the one thing I would think is that there is a point when a property is for sale, that you can require that, you know, that something has to happen when the new owner just like when you look at wells and setbacks and septic system,
And that
that's
may be a good,
and that's,
maybe a
and,
good
and,
way to
and there
get
may,
all that done.
and there may have to be grant programs or things like that, but
Or a
but
revolving
I
loan
think
fund or
the
something.
problem is that we have to, what is this private-public balance, and are private landowners able to sort of export their problems onto the town roads, which is the collective, and so, you know, we gotta be always trying to strike that right balance, and I certainly don't want the heavy hand of the state coming down on people, but I've seen a lot of stuff coming off of private roads, and this thing up in Lindenville was just horrific, just horrific.
No, I think we had a great conversation at the last road foreman training about how that is really a systematic thing. It wasn't clear when we did that training the state was going to be involved in this, and I think we're right on the edge of learning what the state's intentions are in this space. So until we learn more about that, which who knows whether it'll be clear during this 8 month process, whether it'll be important or it'll be far enough along for us to incorporate into our plan. But certainly we'll want to think about those private drainage problems.
Yeah, and identify them if there are places where identify. Like I remember there was one road somewhere where a new landowner, there was a really steep bank and it was a steep road, and a new landowner cut down all the trees, and that drastically changed the pattern of runoff onto the road. So you have these, and who would think, well, you're cutting down your trees, which is your right, and then it affects the whole community and everybody that uses that road. So I think we just have to be a little bit more thoughtful, and maybe that's where education and outreach comes in without a heavy hand, but just, you know.
Yeah.
Two things.
Yeah.
What do you see as a time commitment for someone being on this?
So, it depends on how fast we want the process to go. I know Nick would really like us to move quickly.
We have our timeline. I'm happy to work on whatever timeline is appropriate, because we do only have a certain amount of staff capacity and volunteer capacity.
And that's absolutely fair. So, usually when we meet for about an hour, max would be an hour and a half. We have probably about 6 meetings. I try to keep things moving along. If people are struggling with committing time to that, we can shift everything as much to email back and forth as possible. We had to do that with Sandgate for a little bit, which was fine. You know, we have a shared document, people can put notes in there. You know, I make phone calls, I chat with people. So a lot of times what I'm doing is coming to these meetings and Nick, and we'll just be picking brains, you know, is really what we're doing. A lot of times that can be done via an email. Jamie, can you tell me what I need to update, what happened in the summer of '23? Like, tell me what happened, shoot it to me in a narrative, you know? So we can do it that way too.
And secondly, I know I worked through one of these in the past, but had very little input. And it looks like just about everything on there, if there's any one of those events, the fire department or the rescue squad, both, are going to be involved. And that is something that has not happened in the past. There was very little involvement from the emergency services.
So FEMA, if they don't see community involvement, they're gonna send the plan back to me and they're gonna have an issue with it.
I mean, I got a survey the last time I did one, and
Yeah,
it
no,
had
that
just some
doesn't,
questions on it, and that was it.
FEMA's not happy with that, I gotta tell you. So I came on halfway through Stanford's, and they were very standoffish with the plan, and I kind of left it to the previous planner before me. And then FEMA rolled out all these changes. You know, as soon as I came on, FEMA threw out all of these changes. And yeah, I had to go back and be like, I need more from your town. Because they want the emergency responders involved, you know, I'll call VSP and be like, can you come to a meeting? And, you know,
I'm not trying to put anything
Some-
on Brian, but
no,
or
sometimes
the
they
rescue
come.
squad,
And-
but there
and
needs
the-
to be a lot more input.
The fire department also doesn't have to, you know, Brian, you wouldn't have to be involved through the whole process. Maybe when we're evaluating each hazard and we're picking the top 5, we need you there for that meeting. Because you're gonna be like, landslides, not really a thing here for us, but flood is, you know,
Well, not
something like that.
just you, I mean, somebody else from your department
Yeah.
could be on the committee. And it's not, just has to be
Yeah,
strictly you.
sorry, I'm using you as the fire department,
No,
sorry.
but, yeah, I mean.
You know, I would love to see
It
the
would
emergency
it would be
squad.
nice to have your input,
Right.
I agree with you there, but.
At least
I mean,
department input, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're talking heating and cooling stations, that's the rescue squad.
Mhm.
Can be the fire department helping to
Correct.
get the word out and transport if needed. Most of those natural disasters, that's the first call is 911 to the fire department and rescue squad, so.
so when we make our first committee meeting, for people who have joined the committee, we list out all the stakeholders in town and how we can involve them in our planning process. So for example, you know, if we choose excessive heat, we will invite the library, because the library is a place that is open on regular hours, there's AC, it's a place, you know, where we could offer a cooling place for people to go. But we would want their input on that, so we would invite them to any discussions regarding that. So, you know, there's the planning team, there's the core team, and then there's going to be the stakeholders that we reach out and pull in for a meeting or two as necessary, as we need their feedback. Yeah, and we'll be reaching out to GMP, and we reach out to Fidium, you know, Consolidated, and
It's
you
kind of
know.
like a carousel of people that you have.
Yeah.
Like EMS knows
Yeah.
all the people in town that have oxygen machines
Right.
and things like that are gonna be affected if the power is out. or-
Right. And so the only thing that
So
I
they,
want to point out for the hazard mitigation plan is that a lot of times the line gets blurred between mitigation and response.
right,
So we just want to make sure that we're focusing on the before the hazard, how we're going to mitigate that from happening. So I just want to clarify that for everyone, because that line does get blurred a lot. Any
Yeah,
other questions?
but I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, how do you mitigate excessive heat? I mean, a cooling station is a response. I mean, I don't quite understand the distinction you're
I mean,
making.
well, typically though, like you have a forecast of like hot, humid for like next 3 days, like there's a plan and action to keep, and you never know, I mean, we're not.
No,
there's
I'm just
rolling blackouts, but-
confused, I'm confused by the distinction
Right.
she's making between mitigation and response. I mean, if you have floods, the emergency responders are gonna respond to the flood. We're talking about trying to mitigate
For excessive heat.
flood. So, well, how do you mitigate for excessive heat? I can see providing cooling stations, but that's a response,
That
it's not
is
a
a
mitigation.
Right.
How is that a mitigation? You can't mitigate excessive heat.
It is
Or
really
plant
tough.
more trees, I mean, it's
So,
like,
working with a community.
we're doing that
yeah.
anyway. you know, so-
It is really tough. So like, some of that is making sure that if you, so we have these, it's not, Arlington is tough, right? We're, like I said, we're not gonna mitigate for everything in every town. Sandgate chose not to mitigate for excessive heat. Because how are they gonna mitigate for that, really, in Sandgate?
Yeah, go stand in the Green
Land
River.
You know, are they, are they going to buy everybody AC units,
No,
private,
no,
right?
exactly.
So, but their LEMP covers excessive heat in that if there is hot, we have these places where people can go and cool. So
Okay,
there's the
okay.
local emergency management
Okay,
plan, right? And
okay.
then there's the
All right,
mitigation one.
all right, got it.
And so we'll work
Got it.
through that in the
Okay,
process.
got it,
And
got
we
it.
might choose not to mitigate for excessive heat right now. We can't plant more trees
And that doesn't
around
mean
our
we don't have a
parking lots.
response in our emergency plan,
Right.
but we're not focusing that on the mitigation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, right. Great clarification.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone?
I think I hit my time, Nick.
You're good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm over, get out of here.
She hooked herself.
I'm out, leaving.
You didn't bring
Peace out.
I did, tomorrow night, are you coming tomorrow night? You can come. You come tomorrow night, I'll give you snacks.
But yeah,
See?
we'll be back in touch and about this as we move forward on the process. Feel free to be in touch with the RRI as we, for interest in the team, et cetera, et cetera.
And even if you can't commit to all of the meetings, you'll be in the loop with what's going on. And so if there's a piece that you would really like to join us for, obviously, please join us.
Yeah, we'll communicate on this thoroughly to make sure everyone feels like you have an opportunity as appropriate.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good night, Darrell.
See ya tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the heating oil award.
Tabled that last meeting, asking me to come back to Miles, asking them why we got a higher rate from the school. It purely was about the amount of volume that they drop off at once, which was something that Jamie had expected.
Yep.
And that is it's the best number other than the school that anyone's getting in town, is
Okay.
what they told me.
The
So-
$3.19 a gallon.
Yes. So I certainly lean heavily toward that.
Has everybody
fixed
seen this?
$3.19 a gallon.
Okay.
It was circulated.
Yes, Mark.
I just have a simple question on this.
Okay.
Like, if I'm gonna purchase something at the highway garage, or Willie's gonna purchase something, we need to get more than one price. I understand we bought fuel from Miles for 100 years, and that may be the cheapest price you're gonna get. But I just wondered why you didn't have to get a second price.
Others have been really hesitant on giving us prices on this because they know Miles is so competitive and that the short delivery distance, I certainly made a couple of calls.
I just didn't.
Yeah, people have been really hesitant to give me.
We have had separate oil companies give us prices though before, and it just wasn't,
Yeah, no one would.
it was not apples for apples.
Yeah, that's,
Last meeting, it was, just Miles and
yeah,
Yeah.
why didn't,
yeah, that's exactly it.
why wasn't there a second?
And they gave us multiple options on the structure of that price. But yeah.
So if someone would care to make a motion either way on that, we gotta have it. So.
Okay, so what needs to be in the motion?
A
Just the
motion
price
to-
per gallon?
At the fixed rate
And who we're awarding,
from Miles
what?
at the 390.
and miles that we're awarding.
I make a motion to award the heating fuel delivery contract to Miles Lumber with oil to be delivered at a fixed price of $3.19 per gallon per assigned contract.
Is there a second? Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to award the heating contract to Miles Fuels, excuse me, at a rate of $3.19 per gallon based on the signed contract that will be delivered at a later date. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we don't have to sign anything, it's just approved in the minutes. All right, the next item on the agenda is a mower for the park.
Yes.
And there's a list in your packet of 5 different bids. And I'm assuming the bolded one is the one you're
The
recommending?
bolded one is the one that Jamie related from the Lake Willie's here to explain
Okay.
that for himself.
And that is the prices range from the low of $17,600, which is the one bolded. It's a Skag Turf again 38 KOL with a bagger from Gerald White Sales. The high one is from Brown Enterprises, 38 horsepower Exmark. The bagger at $20,318, and there's several in between those. If someone cares to make a motion
Well,
So
since
there's,
or discussion,
so there's also the bagger, which was extra, right?
So the bagger I built into all
Oh,
of
you
these
did put
total
it into
prices,
these
I
ones,
I
okay.
calculated that all
Total,
out.
Okay.
all of the individual quotes are here.
Willie, not to bring you, I mean, you're the one running it, you had a preference on this, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I had it-
like
I'd
the
given
38
him- I
horsepower?
sent him the list.
I have that one, yeah.
It's a
That's the
circular
bold, yeah, okay, all right,
Right,
now
So
I'm
we
seeing
went
it now.
down at
Is that
it,
the one that's
38.
bolded?
Yeah,
so it's 14.
the Skag 38.
It's 14.4, I think it's 14.4.
Yep.
That's after you get the municipality discount. So Nick has, I think you got that up there, 17,000, is that?
Yep, yeah,
That
we
was
can-
total with the bagger?
Yeah. I
17.6.
Yeah,
over here.
17.6 and 17.8 were those two. But I can
There's
zoom
the
in.
baggers on the bottom here.
Yeah, the bagger's on the bottom listed separately and at 3,200 flat for all
That's
of
not
them,
gonna change
and
for
it's been
anything.
re-added back in, all of
So,
these
more-
three
more-
above it.
more.
So that's what those numbers
That's what those
are.
numbers reflect,
Those are the totals.
yes.
And it was the 38 horsepower with the Kohler motor is what you wanted.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what that, what KO means.
Yes.
I was wondering,
the 17.6 one. The 38 horsepower call.
Mower and bagger 17.6.
and where is the funding for this
This is
purchase?
ARPA, and this is in
This
substitute.
is on our
for-
list and,
Yes, so we're substituting out the irrigation project for this.
For all the greens
Yeah.
for this.
And we're gonna address that at a future date, not with ARPA. But yeah, this is, and Jamie and Glenn and I met on Thursday to prep for this
Yeah.
conversation. So, yeah.
and what's gonna happen to the existing mower?
This is gonna be in addition to the existing new mower that we purchased, this is one with a bagger that'll also provide us resiliency, unless you wanna,
So the 72 inch, you couldn't put a bagger on.
yeah.
Okay.
It's too much flow for
Okay.
the bag size that
Okay,
they don't make it because it clogs up bag size. So 60 inch will, with a 3-bag system, is capable of doing that. So to help with the amount of leaves in the soccer field in fall, like right now, everybody sees that the grass is growing out of control. I'm leaving a lot of thatch, and soccer season is 2 weeks away from the first game.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's gonna help that, it's gonna help with the leaves. Plus, I can take care of the town center, not using Jamie's mower from
Right.
school too,
Right.
which is not fair.
so it gives you more flexibility because you can have the bigger mower without the bags when that's appropriate, and the smaller mower with the bags when that's appropriate.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And then
It's
that's,
a lot easier to come up here and do the town center, not with a 72.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that,
Closest
I get that.
Yeah,
and,
so.
and it certainly gives you resiliency in case you do have a breakdown with the one mower.
Very good. Backup.
So I make a motion to authorize purchase of the Skag Turfed Again 38 KOL with bagger for a total of $17,600 from Gerald White Sales.
Is there a second? Motion is made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve the award to Gerald White Sales for the Skag Turf Again 38 KOL with the bagger for a total of $17,600 to be funded with ARPA funds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so we're done with that. Next
So while we're
item.
on ARPA,
Yes,
if
go
we
ahead.
could for
Yep.
just a minute. We're gonna be bringing it up at the next meeting, but we did have a lot of discussion with the fire department. They got us a lot of numbers and stuff on a side-by-side to replace the old one that's over there, as well as some air packs, some face masks. So we had all of that, and that will all be proposed at the next meeting.
So Jamie
But
and
they've
Bud and
done
I
a-
discussed
they've
this
done-
extensively. on
It was a
Thursday.
trailer, it was a slide-in unit for the skid unit for the
Yep.
side-by-side
For the
and the
side-by-side.
side-by-side. So they got everything together. So they got some really good numbers, did a lot of work on that.
I'm really happy with the base unit numbers that they got, that they're really competitive so far without spoiling any bids and by coming any further.
Right.
I'm really happy, I'm certainly very happy with those.
Brian
numbers.
and I spoke many times about the different things and attachments and accessories, et cetera. So got a really good unit put together, similar to what Manchester is just purchased up there as well.
Just got a question. You said replace.
Yeah, I was gonna, it's not replaced.
It's
No,
not
we never have enough
Right.
units to get up and
Yep.
do a snowmobile rescue or anything. So I was just making sure
No,
that.
no,
Yeah.
not replacing.
Okay.
You're keeping the other one too.
Just the way it slipped out.
Yeah, no, because I mean, it doesn't owe us anything. I was
Right.
bought by a grant.
Yep.
And I just wanted to
No,
clarify.
you're not getting rid of that one.
Yeah.
Because I know that question would come up.
Unless you wanna give it to me, then
Yeah.
no, that's not right.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
And I'll see you.
Yeah, we'll have
next
it.
meeting.
Yeah. Next meeting. Okay, next one is up, fireworks permit.
Yep,
Cynthia's one.
that is just a motion to sign for the fireworks coming up Saturday with the rain date of Sunday.
She is good. See, I told you.
So we have their insurance.
It's gonna be up at Fisher,
Yes.
so it's farther away from me. That's a good thing.
Oh, and it should carry across the valley.
Specific directions to be all loud booms.
It'll echo.
Right,
You might
straight
get
towards
one that
West
drifts out
Arlington.
and heads toward 313.
Well,
Yeah.
the last time we had them out of the pit, we were down on Carboni Circle the next morning picking them out of a swimming pool.
Don't say that before you voted.
Okay, you just,
So they need to change the direction that they fire them.
straight up doesn't work?
Drift.
Another direction.
Different
They're
kind of
directional.
seekers.
So I'm just pre-warning you. And I will not be doing a Jerry Woodard and driving over top of them with a mower the next morning. Because we have soccer that Monday.
You keep talking Cynthia right into this motion. Keep going.
Let me know if you need me to walk the field on Monday.
Oh, you're walking it on Sunday.
That's fine.
I make a motion to permit the Fisher Elementary PTG on August 24th, 2024 at dusk to have a firework display permit. Date and time of postponement, rain date would be the following night, August 25th, 2024 at dusk.
Second.
Motion made by Glenn and seconded by Jamie to approve the fireworks permit for the Fisher PTG for Saturday, the rain date of Sunday. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Do you want to do the,
We should get into the
I
executive
was
session.
going to say, let's do the executive session first, then we'll do the warrants and the other things to finish up. So it is for all three?
Yep, all three, and invite myself and
What?
Mark into
Fire
this
chief
one.
is supposed to
Oh, I
sign
shouldn't
it.
have signed that.
Brian, do you want to talk about anything in the executive session?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I'll update you.
You're
So
also
am I not supposed to sign?
No, we
you
can all
sign.
sign,
We
but
can
the
all
fire
sign.
chief is.
Fire
supposed to
chief.
Fire chief also
We're
has
gonna
to
do
sign.
it now?
Yes.
So we need to make a motion to determine the reason for the executive
It's
session,
just personnel and legal.
property, personnel, and legal issues.
All three.
I'm busy, you'll have to make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent.
I make a motion that premature discussion of a personnel, legal, and
Property.
property matter would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Motion made by Glenn and seconded by Jamie to establish the reasons for the executive session as property, personnel, and legal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
And who's staying in the room?
Myself and
Mark and Nick?
Yeah, Mark and Nick.
I make a motion to actually enter into executive session for a personnel, legal, and property matter, and to allow
Brian? Okay.
Brian, Mark, and
And Nick. Fire
Town
chief.
Administrator
we need
Zayas
Brian. You can keep that, right? Okay, I asked.
to remain in the room.
Okay, that's good.
You're going in whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Is there a
Sign
second?
out room.
Second.
Motion made by Glenn and seconded by Jamie to actually enter into executive session to address the personnel, property, and legal issues, and allow Town Administrator Zayas, Fire Chief BJ Holly, and Town Road Foreman Mark Robinson to remain in the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. What are we talking about?
Between
The select board member that we're appointing, the 5th member. Do we need a motion on that?
I guess so. It's never a bad thing to make a motion.
Does somebody care to make a motion?
Hoping this is the motion you're expecting. I make a motion to appoint Matt Dukowski to complete the term of Todd Wilkins to run until,
March.
actually not completing the term,
Town
to serve as a select board member
Till the
until
next
town
regular
meeting.
town meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to appoint Matt Bykowski as the appointment to fill in the remaining portion of Todd's term to the next regular town meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And so you'll inform,
You'll
I
inform
will
both
inform
candidates.
that's on the call.
okay.
Matt's on the call, but
Um,
congratulations, Matt.
I'm not sure if he's still.
Thank you. I will follow up with Robin tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, you'll have to
Super.
be sworn in and all that
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
okay, so
Welcome back.
Nick, thanks. All right, you have anything, Nick,
No,
for
we-
town
ready for-
administrator report?
Ready for warrants.
Okay, so I gave you the warrants and we're ready to go for those.
Okay, so the first one is the water department, it's the regular expenses. The biggest one is Green Mountain Power. I make a motion to approve check warrant report number WD 16 dated 8/15/24. Motion to approve total operating expenses for the water department, $2,111.41.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve check warrant report number WD 16 in the total amount of $2,111.41. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next warrant report is check warrant report number 16, being the invoices for the Town of Arlington General Fund. Key elements are Southworth Milton for the generator maintenance, $2,200, etc. Striping to top coat application, $7,904. And Town of Manchester dispatch for $8,250. Motion to approve check warrant report number 16 in the amount of $29,126.24.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve check warrant report number 16, total amount of $29,126.24. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business to be brought before the board?
Okay, scheduling matter, the board will be calling a special water department meeting for Monday, August 26th. So 1 week from tonight.
7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock.
And you'll let the
I will
water
let everyone
department
know.
operator know?
I will let the operator know in the morning when I see him.
Okay.
And other than that, there's no other business to be brought before the board.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Glenn. We are adjourned. Thank you,
Aye.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
Chad. Thanks, Matt.